I've sold a lot of vintage tape echoes, and a lot of them run 8-track tapes, and inevitably the tape is going to fail at some point because they're all 40 years old or older. And typically the point where they fail is this little foil piece that connects the two sections of tape together. So if your tape fails, don't panic. We're going to go in and fix it. I've sent a lot of videos to people over the years individually trying to explain how to do this. So I think I'm just going to do one and post it, and if it helps the next guy out, or just anybody in general, that'll be great. What we want to do to start is to find our screw, and you just kind of feel around. You'll feel a divot in the tape. Unfortunately, you got to poke through the label for this, but just get your screwdriver in there and work your way through that label. I'm going to try to do this without getting my hands in the way too much, but it's probably not going to be easy. But let's give it a shot. The screw will eventually work its way out of the label. And then, now I should say that not every tape is going to have a screw in the center. It might be in a different spot. It might be on the back. Some tapes don't even come apart, unfortunately. They're glued together. This is going to work for the vast majority of tapes, however. So let's kind of pinch around, and you'll figure out how to open this tape eventually. And actually, this tape is not broken. So let's just imagine, we'll cut this one, and let's just imagine that it broke and it went inside there, and that's what you got. So now, let's pinch this thing a little bit and carefully try to open this tape up without, having it all fly apart on you. So again, it's going to require some pinching and some investigation till you figure out where it is to open it up. Okay, so we're inside. Now, hopefully it looks about like this, and usually it will. It'll just separate and then end up in this, condition. So if it does, this is a simple repair. We're just going to pull our tape back out and line it up with the other one. Now it's easier to do it like this. So let's just prop this up with something, and we're just going to line these two up. Now I pre-cut a piece of tape, which I recommend doing, so you're not fiddling with the tape. Cut a piece that's narrower than the two pieces of tape. Now we got two types of tape going here, but cut a piece of cellophane tape, and that's narrower than the magnetic tape. All right, and grab that, and we'll just put the tape on the back side of one, kind of hold it there, and then line these two up and then pinch them together. Now you don't want to overlap, and you don't want any space between the two, because you'll end up with some noise there where it doesn't erase if they're overlapping. So, but let's just imagine that we've gotten kind of eaten a little bit, and there's a section of tape that's, the thing's kind of screwed up a little bit, and it's a little bit of a mess here. So now, what are we going to do? Let's even do another, we'll unspool it a little bit more. So, okay, we've got kind of a mess here now. We got tape all over. Still, we're not going to panic. We're going to take our tape, and we're going to splice those two. Now, one more thing. Let's imagine that the tape has been eaten a little bit, and there's a section of bad tape. So we don't want that bad section. And so let's just, this is our bad area, all right? Oh, no, look at that. Terrible. So let's take our two pieces of tape, and we're just going to overlap them somewhere in a clean section where we don't have that bad tape anymore. Get them lined up so they're about perfectly lined up with one another. And then we're going to cut them at an angle, all right? There we go. Now, we're going to take our tape, and we're going to put it on the back side of one. And then I'm going to take the other one. And again, we're going to line it up and try to join those two the best we can without overlapping and without leaving any kind of a gap, because we don't want tape coming in, cellophane tape coming in contact with our heads. So take your time, get them lined up the best you can, and that's pretty good. All right, so now we don't want this extra tape on the sides either, because that's going to cause us some issues. So we're going to just carefully trim the edge of the tape so that there's no cellophane tape hanging over. This is going to be a little bit harder to do. I'm trying to stay out of the camera for you, but we're just going to trim this side so that we don't have any tape showing. All right, but now we've got this extra tape lurking here, and we're going to carefully start to wind this back up. And how we're going to do it is just keep a little pressure on here and wind it up. You can see how much tape is sticking out here. Keep winding. We got to pull a little bit of this out, wind it, pull this out, keep winding, and you'll notice that this amount of tape starts to get shorter and shorter. Pull a little bit from time to time. And what's happening here is the tape is wound around the spool. The outer diameter is obviously bigger than the inner diameter, so every revolution is taking up a little bit of that tape gap. It takes some patience and a little bit of time here, but you know, we're going to get it. So keep winding, pull a little bit, wind, pull, wind. You know, we could fast forward through this, but we're going to do it in real time to show you how long it takes typically. If it's really a lot of tape out, you know, you're going to have to do this for quite a while. Now, if it's not a tape that you're concerned about, you know, like these types of tapes for tape echoes, it doesn't really matter how long they are. So if you find yourself in a situation where you've got just way too much tape out and it keeps coming undone and causing you, you know, you're getting frustrated and starting to throw tools around, feel free to just cut this tape shorter and join it up and get rid of whatever, you know, 20 inches of tape that you got lurking here that is giving you all that frustration. But if you take your time and keep pulling and turning, pulling and turning, pulling and turning, and again, you can see how we're starting to take up that gap with every revolution. Eventually, it's going to get to the point where it's tight enough to reassemble the cartridge. And we're almost to that point now. Okay, now, if you remember right, I believe this went around this lug. Every tape's a little different, so you got to kind of investigate and remember where you were. But that's kind of a normal situation here. So we're looking pretty good. So now we got to also be sure that our tape is on the inside of these little tabs here. So we're going to gently do that. Get it there. Get it there. And then one more time. Okay, we're back to where we want to be. And then we're just going to put our cartridge back together. It's a good idea to bend these tabs forward so that they're making good pressure against the tape heads also. Sometimes these are tabs, sometimes they're little pieces of foam. If they're foam, you can get a little screwdriver in there and kind of fluff that foam up a little bit, or even, you know, put some more foam behind it if you want to. But get those so that they're pushing against the tape, and we'll put this thing back together, snap her in, and put our screw back in, and we're done. If you got a question or comment, leave it down below, and I'll try to answer your questions for you, because again, a lot of these tapes are different, and you might encounter something a little different than this one. Now, again, I used this Scotch tape, which works just fine. It's not going to cause an issue, but just make sure it doesn't stick on either side of the tape. There is a lot of old, this is an old splicing tape thing I bought, I don't know, quite a few years ago now, and I've still got quite a bit left, and it works well, but it really, this is going to be just fine for you. Okay, thanks for checking it out. Good luck. Okay, every tape's a little different, but after watching me reassemble that tape on the video, I'm starting to think that it doesn't go around that lug on this particular tape, and I'll show you why I've come to that conclusion. So this is a rather difficult tape to get open, but the reason I'm starting to think that it doesn't is that this right here looks as though it should go directly this way. So let's bring that tape back off that lug, and we'll just make a couple more revolutions here to tighten that up. Now, it's not super tight, but if you can get it so it's lined up, as soon as you stick it in the tape player is going to take up that slack for you. As long as the tape is not binding up anywhere on the inside of this, that much slack is not going to be an issue. So you could just reassemble it at this point, but let's give it another turn or two. Okay. All right, so again, that amount of slack is not going to cause us any trouble. The machine, as soon as it starts, will start spinning it, and it will take that out for us. So we'll put it back together. And throw our screw in and sticker in the machine, and we're ready to rip.